The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win Make Give podcast network.
Welcome to the 15-Point Plan. Chad Himes here with the nimble Jillene Snell. Jillene, how are you today?
I'm feeling very nimble. How are you?
You should. You know, sometimes I just have to randomly generate an adjective to describe you because there's just so many that fit, I don't know which one to use. So we've got the nimble Jillene Snell ready to make a move, ready to dodge, ready to be all over the place during today's call. She's going to be quick, and because of that, I'm going to bring you a little quiz at the end of this, Jillene. I'm going to put you in the hot seat as one of our audience members and see how you would do in a quiz. And audience, you can play along at home.
You know, it won't be the first time Chad's put me in the hot seat.
That is for sure, and it won't be the last. Jillene, what are we talking about today as we dive deeper into a new section of the 15-Point Plan?
We're going to talk about portion control, Chad.
Yes.
Why is it important? How do I do it? How do I keep motivated to do it?
All right, so we are into nutrition. We're talking about nutrition, and we're going to start it off with portion control because it's that key. Okay?
Yeah.
It's what it's all about. I don't care what you're eating, really, if you're controlling your portion. So, Jillene, I'm going to say it just so you're not the one who has to say it on the podcast. I want our audience members to remember size matters. Okay, now I'm talking about the size of how much food you're eating, folks. Nothing else. Get your minds out of the gutter. Jillene, portion doesn't mean serving. Explain the difference of them for our audience, because I think they're words that get interchanged.
I think they are, yeah. So a portion is the amount of food you choose to put on your plate.
Okay.
And a serving size is a specific amount of food that's found on a nutrition label on a product, which is technically determined by the FDA. So a serving size would be measured in like cups, ounces, grams, or maybe pieces, like 3 crackers or whatever. And depending on how much we choose to eat, our portion size may not actually match the serving size.
Yes.
So, experts are telling us that the amount of food that people are that on the nutrition label, that serving size is determined by the amount of food that people are typically eating in America.
Yes.
Not what professionals think that you should be eating.
Okay, and those percentages that are on those nutrition labels, we might just do a whole episode on how to read one of those nutrition labels, right?
Good call, yeah.
But those percentages are based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So understand, if you want to eat a 1,500 calorie diet, or if you're eating more like a 2,500 calorie diet, those percentages mean absolutely nothing when you're looking at the nutrition label. Jillene, the most shocking thing that has happened with portion control compared to serving sizes that I was noticing during the research of this is that restaurants have actually doubled or tripled the portion compared to what the serving size should be over the last 20 years. Which is probably the leading cause of weight gain in our population.
Isn't it? And this is not just referring to food, right? This is referring to beverages.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Double the size. You know, you go to 7-Eleven, you get double the size.
Yeah. So,
right.
Folks, step one, as we get into portion control, first thing you should do if you're at a restaurant, cut everything in half and take half home. That's another meal all on its own.
Chad, you stole my tip. That's an amazing tip. And there's another one you could add to that where you could just say, hey, do you offer half portions, half sizes of this entree? If they don't offer that, then have them box up half right at the start.
Yep.
And then eat the other half.
I'll tell you, Jillene, I don't know the last time I went to a restaurant and ordered my own meal, because Nita and I just always agree what we're going to have.
Sure.
And then we just split it because it's a portion for each.
And I just prefer that everyone order an entree and I have a bite of every single person's entree.
That's a good way to do it,
But
too.
that's also considered snacking. And we'll talk about that in a second as well.
All right. So let's talk about some of the benefits of portion control, folks. Why you would want to do it is because you're eating too much. And what are some of the benefits that come? Well, one, it'll balance your blood sugar better. Okay, so smaller meals keep your body functioning properly instead of overloading you with glucose, which leads to that insulin resistance, all that stuff we know that can come with diabetes. Jillene, what's another benefit of controlling our portions?
It's definitely better digestion, so it helps prevent cramping and bloating that comes from overeating,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which leads to that indigestion, but also helps with our microbiome.
Ooh, that's a fancy word.
Yeah, I know, right? And eating too much or too little of a certain, like a macronutrient can cause
Carb,
an
protein, fat.
right?
Okay.
Yep, can cause an imbalance in our gut microbiome.
Yep.
And there is fun fact: there's over 100 trillion microbes that live in our intestines.
Ew.
So the amount of food, if it's too much, can really affect that health. And so when we actually manage it and create this healthy gut environment,
Yep.
it stimulates the body's immune system, which will shield against an array of chronic diseases. So
Okay.
there's a lot of benefits to watching how much you put in your body.
I'll give you another one. How about weight loss? Or just weight control. Maybe you don't want to lose weight. Maybe you want to gain weight. Maybe you just want to balance your weight and stay where you are. But smaller portions allow you to control your caloric intake better through the balance of each meal. And here's my favorite: saves money, right? If you actually control your portions and eat those leftovers, you're going to buy less. You're going to buy less at the restaurant. You're going to buy less at the grocery store. You're not going to be going through all of that stuff so quickly. So, works for the wealth series over on Win, Make, Give. We're looking at other ways to save money and cut our grocery bills. Let's eat the right portions by matching the servings.
Sure.
Okay.
That's great.
All right, Jillene. So now let's get to some how-to of this. Give me a way that I understand portion control now. I understand that I'm eating too much. I need to get down to a serving. What's one way that'll help our audience control their servings and portions a little better?
Well, first, I think it starts with creating an awareness.
Okay.
And we want to be aware of how much are we eating and what's the calorie intake and the sugar intake, et cetera, per that serving, right?
Yep.
And to know what we're eating, to know exactly like the scale of it, we actually want to use a scale. We want to measure that. And so I just started doing this recently. I bought one for the office and one for home.
Good for you.
And you can take your bowl and weigh your bowl. And then, if you're going to put yogurt in it, weigh it again. And it's really amazing, like how much, like maybe less calories you thought you were consuming in your serving, or maybe how many more calories you were consuming.
Yep.
But it's creating this awareness. And then you can, of course, translate that into using a tracker like MyFitnessPal. You can enter it in, you can track it for a couple weeks. And this is all data that helps us understand, are the portions that we're eating necessary per the calorie intake that our body needs. And of course, there's a calculation out there that you can go on to Google and do a calorie intake calculator per your body weight and the amount of exercise you do every day, et cetera. So that's also a good starting point, but then utilizing something like a scale to know how much to eat.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, while you're listening to this, if you're near a computer listening, open Amazon right now, search for Food Scale, and buy one, maybe two. Buy yourself one for the holidays that are coming up from this episode, right? Whatever it is.
$6 on Amazon.
Yeah, there's nothing I've ever bought on Amazon cheaper than my Food Scale that has brought a bigger return on investment. Okay, so don't miss out on the opportunity. Get yourself a Food Scale and get yourself a good set of measuring cups. Quick and easy, teaspoons, tablespoons, cup, quarter cup, third of a cup,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. Have those in a drawer somewhere ready to go.
And labels help give us an understanding of what's in that product.
Yes.
However, if you use something like MyFitnessPal and you enter in the amount of food that you ate, it also will tell you the nutrition facts when you enter it in if you don't quite have that label handy. So you can use that app to give you that data as well.
And I love MyFitnessPal. Probably one of the most used. We don't get anything from them. We're not, but it's probably one of the most used apps out there when it comes to food tracking, Jillene. And I would recommend everybody uses it. Go download it right now, MyFitnessPal, if you want a portion control, because you might not want to eat what a serving is, but it's easy enough to adjust that in MyFitnessPal and say, this is what I did eat.
Well, and speaking of portion control in relationship to that, I found myself eating and snacking a lot less because of MyFitnessPal. So for instance, every time I eat something, I have to log it, even if I eat like one Cheeto, right? Or one cracker. I've got to log that one thing. And I'm thinking, is this one cracker, is it worth going on the app and actually taking the time to log it? And I'll think in my head, no, it's not. So I end up snacking a lot less and then planning out the healthy in-between snacks in between my meals, such as a cup of carrots, right?
Yep.
A quarter cup of nuts, etc.
Okay. So let's talk proper serving size. Jillene, I'm a sports guy. So I was doing my research on this, and the Mayo Clinic must agree with me. Sports is something that whether you like, whether you enjoy, everyone generally understands them. So Jillene, can you imagine the size of a tennis ball? Imagine you're holding a tennis ball in your hand right now.
Sure.
Okay. That's a serving of a fruit. That's how much a fruit serving is. So a small apple, maybe a medium orange is going to be about the size of the tennis ball. Okay. So when you're thinking fruit, think tennis.
Okay.
I don't know how you make tennis and fruit go together.
Right.
The tennis ball is fuzzy. It's like a peach. There you go. It's a fruit.
So when we're thinking vegetables, what do we need to think of?
Vegetables, we go to baseball. Okay. A bell pepper, a tomato, maybe a half cup of carrots is probably about the same size as a baseball would be.
A baseball is bigger than a tennis ball, right? Is it about the same size?
They're close in the same
Okay.
size. I was actually surprised doing my research at the Mayo Clinic. Didn't just say a ball is a portion, but I'm sure someone out there is now grabbing a tennis ball,
Right.
grabbing a baseball, putting them together and saying, ha, I know which one's bigger. They're relatively close to each other. But a ball is going to be the size of a vegetable serving a baseball, where a tennis ball is the size of a fruit, but it's basically a bell pepper. But when you go to the store, don't you ever notice that sometimes those bell peppers are massive?
Mm-hmm.
Or you get a tomato and it's huge. Okay, just because it's a tomato doesn't mean it's still a serving. It's a portion if you eat the whole tomato, but you might be eating 1.5 servings of a tomato if you got one of those really big ones or something along those lines. Okay, Jillene, here up in Washington, hockey has been the talk of the town because we have a hockey team, right? Go Kraken. All right, so a hockey puck. There you go, John. I gave you a go Kraken moment.
See, I thought you put that in for me because I'm Canadian, right?
Sure,
This
absolutely.
one definitely spoke to
and
me.
I grew up in Toronto, so I grew up with the Leafs. I don't think they've won in my whole lifetime. But a hockey puck is a carb. That's a serving of a carb. So think about a hockey puck. That's like half a cup of cooked pasta. It's a slice of bread. You'd be amazed at how much a serving will actually fill you if you were to eat the proper amount. Problem is, too many people just fill the whole bowl with pasta or the whole plate with pasta, and they've probably put 4 servings worth, 4 hockey pucks on their plate without thinking about it. Okay?
Talk to us about protein.
Okay, protein, key. 2 ways to remember protein. It's a deck of cards. If you think about them in the package, a deck of cards. Easier for me, the palm of your hand is usually about the serving of a protein. So that's going to be 2.5 ounces of chicken breast, something along those lines.
Okay.
So think about that, though, Jillene. Think about going to a nice steak restaurant. Have you been to a nice steak restaurant?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what's the smallest steak they usually even have on the menu?
Oh, rarely 6 ounces.
Correct. Usually 8 ounces is like
Right.
the smallest you're going to get. And start to think about that. That's almost 3 portions when it comes to how much steak is a serving. And that's what we're getting, and we're happily eating our 8 to 10 ounce steak without thinking about it at the restaurant. There's the example of they are doubling and tripling what a true serving size is. Okay, so you've talked about fruits, vegetables, carbs, proteins. We've gone through. There's one more macronutrient, and that's fats. Okay, fats, sadly, we don't get as much. It's about 2 teaspoons. It's a pair of dice, if you think about it. So if you're going to use some mayonnaise, some margarine, start thinking, am I using about 2 dice size worth of the stuff when I throw it into the pan? And no, we're not. We're throwing in multiple dice worth of butter into our pan to cook or pouring oil in our pan.
Well, I think we're just not measuring typically,
Correct.
right? When we pour in olive oil, we're not measuring. So I think, again, this is all about creating awareness. Let's measure for a week or 2 and see what that looks like.
Absolutely. So let's give you some other steps now that you have an idea. Look, my love, Nita, went away for the week. So I made 2 steaks. One before she left, we had steak. And I made another one while I was already cooking there. And then all I did was I sat in front of the scale and I cut it into 4-ounce servings. And now I just put them into Tupperware into the refrigerator. And now I just had a steak serving ready to go, prepared for dinner. Because that to me is what a portion would be 4 ounces to get my number. You sent me a link earlier today. We were talking about this.
Yep.
You sent me a link, which is one of the most powerful ways to help people with portion control. What was it you found?
It was actually a portion control plate where it broke out the the percentage of like vegetables in the macronutrients, right? Vegetables, carbs, proteins, and it shows you specifically on the plate how much to put in. And you can get ones with dividers, like they have all sorts of plates. I'm not saying, people at home want to give up these nice plates that they use,
Right.
but they could choose to buy one to create the awareness and say, what am I really eating?
Yes.
And then not to forget that, hey, we actually need to potentially increase the amount of vegetables that we're eating and leafy greens, because I know about like me, that's the minority of my plate.
Sure.
I don't love vegetables.
Okay.
So I've got to have something that reminds me, hey, put more vegetables on your plate.
And just in general, just buy smaller dishes. When you have a big bowl and you fill it with cereal, you fill it with more than one serving because the bowl's just bigger and you feel like you're not getting enough if you don't fill it all the way.
You could use your kids' platters, right?
Yes.
I use like a salad plate for my dinners. And every time I have females come over, or actually anyone, men and women, like I'll give them the option of the smaller plate or the larger plate. Little do they know I'm actually creating a hypothesis of who might choose what, right?
There you go. Interesting. All right. Another way to portion control, just drink water before you eat. Okay. A lot of the times we're hungry, we're actually just dehydrating. And if you drink, you won't eat as much. It'll help you actually control how much you're eating. And then you already mentioned it, Jillene. We've got to make sure we track our food and we have to be very mindful about what we're eating. Okay. Making sure that we're calming down and slowing down. All right. As we come to our 15, because we like to keep these at a certain length, Jillene, I want to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Okay. We've been talking portion control, and I went and I did some research on the proper portion control of certain items. So, Jillene, I'm going to challenge you to close that computer screen because I know you want to type quicker than possible to pull up the answer.
I've got
and
Google
be right.
ready.
Close the screen. Come on, you could do it.
Okay.
Or put your fingers where I know you're not touching the keyboard over
I'm
there.
going to close my
Jillene,
screen and close my eyes, okay?
How
Go for
many
it.
French fries are actually in a serving?
Oh, gosh. I would say 25.
12 to 15 French fries is a serving, which means Jillene just guessed
Right?
2 servings, basically. And Jillene, if you go to McDonald's and get small fries at McDonald's, 42 French fries in there. That's 3 servings of French fries right in that
Wow.
little white small
Yeah.
size that the kids get in the Happy Meal.
Do you know any of the nutrition content for that?
I'm not going to
Number of
scare everybody
okay.
with that. You don't want to know that part of it. All right, Jillene, let's go to something else that a lot of people like to eat. Potato chips. How big is a serving of potato chips?
Let me guess again. I would say, 30 chips.
Okay. A serving of potato chips is 1 ounce or 13 chips approximately. Jillene, a Pringles can has 5.2 ounces. And if you are like most people, once you pop, you can't stop. And that's 5 servings of potato chips you're
Wow.
eating in that can.
Right.
Okay. One more. This is one that not everybody indulges in, but I want everyone to be aware of it. Oreos, because they're delicious. How can you not love an Oreo?
I don't like Oreos.
She's not making the face.
Yeah, no.
How many Oreos is a serving?
5.
3 Oreos is a serving. There's 15 servings in a package of Oreos. And folks, once you open them,
Yeah.
you don't have 3 and put it
With
away.
Halloween coming up,
Oh my
right?
goodness, right?
Yeah, all the temptations.
Here's the lesson of Halloween though. Those candies come in single size servings.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually have your candy and know 1 Reese's peanut butter cup is a serving instead of buying the 2-pack and thinking it's a serving because they come in 1 package.
Sure.
Okay.
And here's my tip on that.
Yes.
Eat one and throw the rest in the garbage before you're tempted to keep them. And not the garbage in your kitchen. Like walk outside of your house, throw it in the big garbage can so that you don't touch anymore.
All right. That's
Portion
Jillene's
control
tip.
tip of the day.
Here's my tip when it comes to it. Just put them somewhere that it's inconvenient to get to because then you got to do the work for it.
Sure.
Then at
I
least
will
you
work
think
for a
twice.
Reese's peanut butter cup.
I'm sure
There's
you
no
will.
amount of work that would hold me back from that.
What we do know is that Bob Stewart will do no work for an Almond Joy. He thinks they are the worst of all the candy. Last year I brought him all my Almond Joys and I think they're still sitting on his desk. He won't eat them. Folks, portion control can make all the difference in the world. And we hope this episode ups your energy and takes you to the next level.